DreAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you're expected to achieve, where is it? It's nowhere to be found. You have not achieved that success yet, but we're going to put all this together and we're going to add in personal initiative to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Now, you put all that together in one bundle, one package, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. I wrote a book on the subject. This masterclass that comes out every day, you know what you get? It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day. Pleased to meet you. Welcome to the show. Today's topic is, what do you do when freedom of speech ain't free? Now, yesterday, I did a masterclass that was targeted at the people of color in America who feel like white privilege may be in their way. I didn't even say this in yesterday's class, but I actually posted a poll on Instagram asking the question, do you feel like white privilege is blocking you from your success? And there was about 40% of the people who responded said yes, they felt like white privilege was in their way, but 60% said no. Well, here's what we're going to talk about here today. And this one, maybe you may consider me in talking about this here today, throwing a bone at maybe some white Americans, maybe some of you who have more conservative points of view, maybe some of you who are not as woke as may be required to be active on social media these days, if you know what I'm talking about, where you can't have an opinion that goes against the zeitgeist or goes against the grain or doesn't jibe with what, quote, everyone, close quote, is saying, because you're going to be destroyed and bullied, maybe even lose your career, your job, a whole lot of things based on something that you said on social media that is not, there's nothing inherently wrong with what you said. There's nothing illegal about what you said, but you just happen to have the wrong opinion at the wrong time in front of the wrong people. And I think all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So what do you do when your freedom of speech is not as free as you thought it was? You have seen over the last few weeks and months, CEOs and influencers of all colors, most of them white, scrambling to say the right thing and or get canceled for saying the wrong thing or not saying anything at all. We've seen Drew Brees, Hall of Fame, sure to be Hall of Fame quarterback in the NFL, leader of his team, the New Orleans Saints, Super Bowl champion quarterback, well-liked, well-respected guy in his community and in the sports world, say that he didn't want to kneel during the national anthem, or he wasn't planning to kneel during the national anthem because he felt that kneeling was disrespectful to the flag. Now, here's the thing about Drew Brees saying what he said. All right, that's his opinion, that he feels kneeling is disrespectful to the flag. That is not wrong. It's an opinion. An opinion can't be wrong. It's just his way of thinking. It is not illegal. It is not racist. It is not white privileged. It's none of those things. It's just a man voicing his opinion. Now, the fact that Drew Brees happens to be white only added fuel to the entire fire that immediately combusted when Drew Brees made that statement. A bunch of people jumped down his throat, on his back, on his knees, on his ankles, on top of his head. There was no area of his body that had not been jumped on by somebody on social media. And Drew Brees' dead body was dragged through the social media town square as an example to everyone else out there who dared possibly have an opinion that was different from what was popular on social media. I mean, it was athletes who didn't even play football, jumping on Drew Brees. His own teammates were trashing him on social media when I'm sure they have his direct number, but they didn't call him. They actually trashed him on Twitter first. Then they probably called him after that. That was all very interesting to me. And then Drew Brees, being who he is, I don't know much about Drew Brees, his personality or his character, but within 24 hours, he backtracked on that whole thing, and apparently his entire mindset changed around kneeling during the national anthem. I don't think his mindset changed at all. I think he did what he had to do because otherwise he was about to be, what do they call it? When they turn your body into ashes, or whatever they call it. I can't think of the word right now. That's what they were about to do to Drew Brees' body. He wasn't even gonna be in a casket. He was gonna be in an urn, all right, sitting above somebody's fireplace. All right, that's what was about to happen to him if he didn't backtrack. I remember seeing that statement, Drew Brees saying, well, I wouldn't kneel during the national anthem because I think about my grandparents who fought in the war and I feel it's disrespectful to the flag. As soon as I saw it at night, and I remember telling Anna, I said, he's going to be apologizing about tomorrow morning because it's about to get real ugly for him saying that right now. He should have known better than saying that, but he didn't know better. He found out, and Drew Brees' dead body was left as a message for everybody else out there who even thought about it. Now, we celebrate people these days for speaking out. You know how people get celebrated for speaking out. but we only celebrate them for speaking out when they say what we agree with. I've heard many people make the argument that while Michael Jordan may be the greatest basketball player, LeBron James is a greater athlete and maybe a greater person than Michael Jordan because LeBron has had the courage and willingness to speak out, quote unquote, speak out on social issues. And I say fine. Many people say that. I'm not an eye roller, but I do whatever the other version of eye rolling is without actually rolling your eyes whenever I hear people say things like that. Because here's the question I want to ask you. You answer this question to me. If LeBron James was just as outspoken as he is, right? But let's just say he was a supporter of Trump and he had very conservative views instead of the liberal mouthpiece that he has made himself to be. What if he was very conservative and he supported Donald Trump and he was speaking out just as much? Would people be saying the same things? Would they say he's greater than Jordan because of his willingness to speak out? Now you're probably laughing at the thought, right? But if you really think about it objectively, people said he's great because of his willingness to speak out. They didn't say his willingness to speak on a certain topic. They said his willingness to speak out. So what if he was speaking out, but he was just saying things that people didn't agree with? Would they still be saying the same thing? You and I both know the answer to that question is hell no, they wouldn't be saying that. LeBron would have been just as canceled as Drew Brees was canceled. I don't know how that would affect his basketball status, but he would be just as canceled as Drew Brees got if he was saying the wrong thing. So it's not that people celebrate LeBron for speaking out. They celebrate LeBron because he speaks out on things that you agree with. Now, if he was speaking out and saying things you didn't agree with, listen, Donald Trump speaks out. All right, do people celebrate him for speaking out? No, they trash him because he's speaking out and saying things that you don't agree with. So today what we're going to talk about is not how to say things that people agree with, but how to navigate the landmine of free speech when you may have an opinion that does not jibe with the masses, whoever the masses may be, and whatever geographic location you may be in, digitally or physically. Point number one. Today's topic is what do you do when freedom of speech is not free? And just in case y'all didn't know, freedom of speech ain't free right now. You should be very careful and tread very lightly and be careful what you're stepping on when you're walking through the landmine of social media. You might step on an IED without even knowing what it is. You don't know what an IED is? Google it. Point number one. Respect everyone's opinion. Now, this point right here is something that should be going to the people who participate in the social media lynch mobs who attack people for saying the wrong thing. But I'm going to say it to you who may have an opinion that goes against the lynch mob. Respect everyone's opinion. And you need to respect everyone's opinion, especially when you do not agree with other people's opinion. And I'm going to explain to you why this is, why you need to respect the opinions of other people, especially when you don't agree. And this could be, I could do a whole topic on just this point right here. I've talked about opinions on probably 10 episodes of this show in the history of the show already. But everybody has the right to feel how they feel. This is the thing I want everyone to understand. If someone has an opinion that is different from yours, they have a right to that opinion. Even if you disagree with their opinion, even if you think they're wrong for having the opinion, even if you think they are dumb for having the opinion, even if you believe they are misinformed or underinformed, or they just don't know the things that you know, which almost everybody thinks when they hear an opinion that they don't like, they still have the right to feel that way. Now, Drew Brees, when he said he wanted to stand during the national anthem because he feels like it's disrespectful to the flag, there were obviously a lot of people who disagreed with him that thought it's not disrespectful to the flag because a lot of people were saying, well, he still doesn't understand this and that, which I found to be very hypocritical. And I've already talked about this, what to do when people are hypocritical, because there are a lot of people who are hypocrites when the light gets shined on them. I found it to be very hypocritical for any athlete to say, well, Drew Brees is wrong for saying he doesn't want to kneel during the national anthem, because I'm thinking to myself, like, most of you motherfuckers were not kneeling for the last 4 years. The only person who kneeled consistently was Colin Kaepernick and his friend Eric Reed. That's it. Nobody else was kneeling. I didn't see not one NBA player take a knee 4 years straight. Colin Kaepernick took a knee in 2016. That's 4 years past. All those games getting played. I never seen any of these woke athletes take a knee. But then as soon as Drew Brees said, I'm not taking a knee because it's disrespectful, everybody put on a Superman cape and defended Colin Kaepernick. I'm like, well, why the fuck wasn't y'all defending him when the games was happening and that national anthem played and your ass was standing up? Why all of a sudden you think kneeling is such a great idea? When have you ever done it? And then I hear football players saying that in this upcoming football season that they plan to do something, and a lot of players are saying that they're going to kneel. I've heard white players saying it, black players saying that they're going to kneel. And then I've seen people applauding it, like, yeah, these guys are keeping it real. Yeah, they're going to kneel and celebrating this. And I'm like, this means absolutely nothing. These guys aren't showing any type of courage. If any of these guys had any type of courage, any type of heart, they would have kneeled when there was something to lose for kneeling, when there was some heat on them, when Donald Trump would have been saying their name, when they would have been attacked by conservatives and fans or whoever who disagreed with the kneeling. But now that Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, has come out and offered some kind of blanket apology. I don't know exactly what he was apologizing for. And many white people in America have become woke. Maybe they were already woke, but they're announcing their wokeness. And now the whole kneeling gesture is accepted as a positive thing. Now people want to kneel, that there's no heat on them, that everybody's going to be doing it. So you're not taking on any individual, heat on yourself because a bunch of people are going to do it together. Like, what are you actually proving? You're not proving anything. So it was really surprising to me to see. Actually, I can't even say it was surprising. It was, I don't even know what word to use to describe how I felt about it when I seen people getting mad at Drew for saying that when all of them were standing up. And some of Drew's own teammates attacking him on Twitter for saying that he didn't want to kneel during the national anthem. I'm like, yo, teammate, you weren't kneeling during the national anthem. So why do you think it's such a bad idea to kneel? Why do you think Drew's comment was so bad when you yourself stand during the national anthem? I never heard you say anything in support of Colin Kaepernick, because you knew if you did, before all this happened, somebody would say, okay, well, if you're in such support of Kaepernick, why aren't you taking a knee? And then you wouldn't have an answer to that question. But now that it's kneeling is going to go, and for those of y'all who don't know, by the time you hear this, maybe some games have already started being played in whatever sport. Kneeling is going mainstream. All right, by the end of 2020, kneeling during the national anthem is going to be like the ice bucket challenge. All right, everybody's going to be doing it. All right, and to me, it doesn't mean anything because there's no heat. All right, you're not taking a risk if you're doing something that everybody already accepts it. Colin Kaepernick's the only person who took a real risk with that kneel, and then you can say his friend Eric Reed, who also took a knee when the heat was on. But everybody else, all right, all you motherfuckers were standing up straight during that national anthem. All right, don't become a Captain Save a Kneeler now when you had a chance to do it and you would have lost something. You would have been attacked. Some of your fans would have been mad at you. You didn't do anything. All that being said, everyone has the right to feel how they feel, as I just expressed how I feel. Do not attack people for disagreeing with you. All right. Attacking people because they disagree with you or because their opinion is different from yours it's childish, and it's a sign of immaturity. Now, you can question a person, you could call a person out, but don't get to attacking them personally. Don't get to extrapolating their opinion to mean something other than exactly what they said. So Drew Brees, for example, saying, I don't want to kneel during the anthem because it's disrespectful to the flag. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's a supporter of any political party. It doesn't mean that he's a racist. It doesn't mean that he's a white supremacist. It doesn't mean anything other than exactly what he said. The only thing he said was it's disrespectful to kneel during the anthem. That's the only thing we can conclude. Don't jump to conclusions when somebody has one opinion, then you say, oh, well, you have this opinion, so it must also mean you believe this and this and this. This is what people do. This is what immature people do. This is people who don't have the ability to think do. This is people who are too childish to objectively listen to what somebody else says and actually not listening at all. They're just hearing what people say so they can find something to attack, and they can find some reason to start speaking themselves again because they're not actually listening. Don't be that person. All right, I know that's the cool thing to be on social media. Don't be that person. All right, don't be a sheep. All right, you know what happens to sheep? All right, just the same way that they follow each other when everything seems to be fun and games, they also follow each other into the slaughterhouse. Point number 2. Today's topic is what to do when freedom of speech ain't free. Number 2, expand your repertoire. What I mean by this is you must have more tools for effective communication so that you can deal with other people, especially when there is disagreement. So Drew Brees, I don't know if he has much of a verbal repertoire, but he didn't show it in that moment when he was asked that question about would he kneel during the national anthem, because there was a way he could have answered that question and not rile people up to come and mutilate his body the way that they did. Expanding your repertoire means Drew Brees could have said something like, someone asked him, would you kneel during the national anthem? Drew Brees could have said, listen, I'm not personally going to kneel during the national anthem, but if there are players out there who want to kneel and players out there who feel like kneeling is a way to express how they feel about what's going on in America right now, I respect their right to do it. I would have no problem with them doing it, but my personal preference is to stand, period. He could have said that. He didn't have to add in anything else, and people would have had to respect that. Now, may a few people gotten upset even over that? Sure. I mean, when you're famous enough and enough people are listening to what you say, somebody's going to find some reason to criticize it at some point or another. But I highly doubt he would have invited the type of vitriol that he did invite with the thing that he did say. So expanding your repertoire means you can disagree with another person. You can express an opinion that's different from what the crowd thinks, but you can do so in such a way that the crowd doesn't think that you're going against them. Because if a crowd of people feel like you're going against them, especially when there's a group, every individual in that group is going to feel much more bold because they know they're supported by the person to the left of them and to the right of them. Now, if you disagree with one individual person, how they're going to respond, you never know, because they don't have the backing of a crowd to multiply their confidence by 20. All right, everyone's confidence goes up when they know they got 1,000 people behind them. Now, put a person individually by themselves, and you're going to see a lot larger variance of how people respond when challenged. But the whole point is this: when you're dealing with a group, all right, you got to have the repertoire to be able to say what you want to say, stand on what you actually believe, but at the same time, don't incite the crowd by saying something that they feel like you're, basically telling them that they're wrong. Excuse me, which is what Drew Brees did incorrectly. Studies show, I read this actually, that the more limited a person's vocabulary, the more apt that person is to poor behavior or destructive behavior that gets them in trouble. This study actually happened when there were some people doing some research they were researching prisoners for a bigger project on rehabilitation. But this is something that they discovered in the process of their research that they weren't even looking for. That the lower the level of a person's vocabulary, the more narrow their vocabulary, the more apt they were to do things that got them in trouble. If you look at it on a practical level, people only resort to name calling and other useless tactics of conversation when they're out of material. They're out of conversational material, so they resort to calling names or jumping to conclusions or putting labels and tags on you that make you look like a terrible person, or the cognitive dissonance of what is called the absurd absolute, which basically means if someone says something like, someone says, well, I tried to eat vegan, but I didn't like it, so now I eat like a paleo diet. And you say, the absurd absolutist would say something like, oh my God, it's terrible that you hate animals so much that you would kill them. Now, that's not what the person said. They said, I tried vegan, I didn't like it, so I do eat meat. And you stretched it out to take it to the furthest extreme. That's called the absurd absolute. And it sounds absurd and funny, right? But people do this every single day. And you spend enough time on social media, you'll see people doing it literally all day. I heard a guy that I actually know. I'm not gonna say his name, but I saw this on Facebook. I opened my personal Facebook app, and I don't use Facebook, by the way. All I do is open it to check messages and see any notifications, maybe for any groups I may be a part of. And I saw this guy's post at the top of the feed. I didn't even have to scroll. And he said he had to go to a different church. He said, I went to a different church this week because my old church is now woke and they support what did he say? He said they support the violent rioters of Black Lives Matter. That was all he said in the post. Now, I've seen more of his stuff, and he's commented actually on some of my live streams, so I know a little bit more about what he's saying. But if that's the only thing that I read from that gentleman, then I would think a lot differently about him than I think now, because I have a little bit more context of where he's coming from. But that kind of statement right there, what is that going to do for someone who's a supporter of Black Lives Matter who reads that? All right, they're automatically going to put you in a certain box, depending on the level of vocabulary that they have, and that could lead to a whole lot of attack coming in your direction, depending on how known you are as a person. I'm saying all that to explain to you, this is what this guy was doing. He was doing a little bit of absurd absolutism there by saying that, but that's Black Lives Matter. I wouldn't say that that's what they're for, violence and rioting, but some people could take it that way because they've seen violence and rioting around things that were labeled a Black Lives Matter type of event. But again, people who have enough vocabulary are able to explain it in such a way that you can put both things in there. Like, hey, this is a Black Lives Matter event, but there was some rioting and there was some looting and vandalism going on here. But we're not going to say that that's because Black Lives Matter mandated it and they said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Maybe that's something that happened in the process. But again, if you don't have the vocabulary to explain that, then how would you put it? How would you explain it to another person? How would you share that with somebody else? And again, you spend enough time on social media, it doesn't have to be much time. You see a lot of people who have very small repertoires of communication, so they can only communicate things at the level that they can understand and explain it. And this is how we end up with what we have on social media these days, with people taking small pieces of information out of context, painting it into whatever way they want to make it look, and then sharing it, and it's spreading, because there are a lot of people out here who don't think, don't read, and are lazy. It's like a salesperson who runs out of closes when they're in a sales conversation, and they resort to repeating the same thing over and over again. They're probably not going to close that sale. I told y'all a story about that in one of my articles. I was talking to a sales guy. I remember his name was Joey, and he was trying to close me, and I didn't buy. I was balking at buying. I wasn't going to buy. And I just wanted to see where he was going to go with it and what was his way of getting out of the conversation. All he did was just keep repeating himself over and over and over again, because he had run out of material. Salespeople who have a plethora of closing material, they don't mind. The longer the conversation goes, they know that they're good, because they have 100, 1,000 different ways they can close a sale, and they don't get upset and they don't lose their cool when the customer doesn't close on the first 3 close attempts, because they know they got 300 more to go through. So make sure you have enough bullets in your intellectual/verbal holster, your chamber, so that when you do need to explain something to someone, when you do need to answer a question, when you do get in a situation where tempers may be high and people are very emotional and they're just waiting for somebody to say the wrong thing so they can attack, you can voice your opinion that may not go along with what the group believes, but at the same time, let the group save face it. Let the group save face and let you save your life, unlike Drew Brees. Point number 3. Today's topic is how to conduct yourself and what to do when your freedom of speech is not as free as it used to be. Point number 3, do not get personal in attacking people. As I talked about earlier, this is childish, it is immature, it is unproductive, it does not produce results. If your result is to get another person to listen to you, to get along with another person, to get someone's cooperation, to get someone to understand your point of view, attacking them personally will not do that. Okay? Attack another person's ideas if you want to. You can attack the position that they have taken if you want, but do not go at a person personally with personal insults, or saying things about where they're from, or their race, or their religion, or their family, or anything that seems like you have lost your calm. You have lost your cool in this situation. You start attacking someone personally simply because you have run out of material. All right, that's a problem. And what it does is burn the bridge. It's the only thing that you're actually achieving when you get personal with other people because they disagree with you, is you're burning that bridge to that person. And the problem with burning bridges, and the reason why I need to talk about this, is because, listen, you can burn a bridge when you're feeling all high and mighty. Let's say your side or your position or your argument, you feel like it has a lot of momentum right now and a lot of people are agreeing with you, and you may burn some bridges in the process of doing that because right now you have the momentum. But the challenge is, in life, power always swings. All right, there's always, in basketball, a team can be up by 20 points, but they know that other team is going to make a run and close that gap at some point. Your goal is to just not give it all back, but when you're up by 20, that doesn't mean the game is over. All right, you still got 2 more quarters to play. All right, don't get comfortable. The problem with burning bridges is when the tables turn and you're gonna need to get back across that bridge, now you gotta swim. All right, and that's deep water and there's some sharks in it. You don't have a bridge to cross anymore. That's the problem with burning bridges, is that when you put any type of energy out in life, you all understand the law of karma. The energy that you put out is the energy that you get back. So if you're feeling high and mighty now, keep in mind that life is long, okay? You know, I know people say life is short, life is long. Because those same people, as the cliche goes, same people you see on your way up, you see those same people on your way down. So don't start going off topic on people. Don't get personal with people. Don't start making personal attacks on people via your Twitter or your Instagram or your Facebook, because whatever you do to other people, you are opening the energy door. You're opening the karmic door for the exact same thing to happen to you. And the wider you are able to expand your verbal and intellectual repertoire, the more you'll be able to understand other people, the better you'll be able to communicate with other people, the better you'll be able to get your point across, the better you'll be able to explain what somebody else is feeling and what somebody else is doing. Even if you disagree with it, you'll be able to explain it and understand, okay, this is why people are doing this thing. You all remember my episode where I talked about George Floyd in the beginning of June 2020. I personally have not been out rioting or breaking anything or even doing any protesting, because that's not what I choose to do. However, I can understand why people do it. I can respect the fact that they've done it, and I can explain to you why they're doing it. You may wonder, why are people out breaking things? If somebody got killed by a cop, what is burning down a building going to do? And I explained that to you, that some people out there feel like their voices have not been heard, and they're doing whatever they got to do to get attention to themselves. Now, you may not agree with their methods for getting that attention, but again, you're not them, so you can't understand what they understand. You may understand some things that they don't understand. You may have some experiences that they don't have. Therefore, you have to respect that they're communicating in the only way that they know how, or they're not as smart as you, maybe. They don't have the tools that you have. They don't have the resources that you have. Therefore, their way of communication is completely different from your way of communication, because they got different skill sets. And you have to learn to respect that. And the wider your repertoire, the better you'll be able to understand why other people's repertoires are what they are. That is what understanding is about. Let's recap today's class, which is what to do when your freedom of speech is not as free as you thought it was. Point number one, respect everybody's opinion, especially when you don't agree with them. Everybody has the right to feel how they feel. Do not attack people who don't agree with you. That is childish. It's a sign of your own immaturity. Point number two, expand your repertoire. Have more tools for effective communication so you can deal with other people, especially when you do not see eye to eye with those people. The more limited the vocabulary, the more apt to poor behavior, because people behave poorly when they can't express themselves any other way. They do things because they can't say it. They can't do it with their words, so they have to do it with their hands and their feet and their weapons or whatever it is that they're doing. Point number three, do not get personal when attacking other people. You can attack their ideas, their positions, their beliefs, their facts, but do not attack people personally, because all that does is burn a bridge. The problem with burning a bridge is one day you're going to need to cross that bridge again, and now it's not there, and now you got to swim, and you're black. You can't swim. Work on your game. Dre, all day.